Hello, it is the week 4 edition of the Monster Pod here on thelines.com. Joined by Connor Allen, 4 for 4 of New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons. This is 2.5 in favor of the Falcons. 42 is the prevailing total here in this one. One of the first bets I put in my account this week was the Falcons. Feel really good about it. This Saints team is completely beaten up. If you did not follow the injury news this past week, it was a offensive line that was one of the worst ranked offensive lines heading into the season as it was anyway. And the only guy with any talent in Eric McCoy has been put on IR. And so they have a offensive line that wasn't good in the first place. And the only guy that had a little bit of talent is now placed on IR. We have a whole bunch of dudes that are banged up on the Saints side of things. And I came in with the Falcons significantly higher in my power ratings than the Saints. The Saints kind of got brought back down to earth a little bit last week with a good defensive scheme. I'm not going to write out that I think the Falcons can give them a good defensive scheme as well. And so with that, really do like the Falcons a lot under a field goal in this game. Steven, what do you like here in this one?
No bet for me, but I want to play devil's advocate with you and get your response on this because yes, they're both teams are potentially missing offensive linemen in this game, right? In the interior. So to me, if the Saints were thought to have not much talent on the offensive line coming into the year and all of a sudden they're scoring a ton of points because we feel like it's scheme, right? They're scheming away from the talent. Even if they have backups in there, doesn't the scheme kind of mitigate that a little bit, especially with a Falcons defensive line that, doesn't exactly have Jalen Carter on the front. And I know you saw like all the tape grinders and stuff talking about Fangio going from, instead of a 4-man front, a 5 or even a 6-man front at times against this New Orleans. I'm just not sure Atlanta can replicate that. So it's only one side of the ball, but like, what's your response to that?
Well, there's cluster injuries too. So Cesar Ruiz is a guard who hasn't practiced so far this week. So he's back-to-back DNPs. And so I think you can scheme around some things. I don't know if you can scheme around cluster injuries specifically on the offensive line. And so I always try to attack multiple injuries on an offensive line because of cohesion and things like that. And so I'm not really going to deviate from that plan that's worked for me for a while, specifically against a team that, again, first couple of weeks lit things up. I'm still just not buying in completely to the Saints altogether. Plus Alvin Kamara banged up as well. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to play, but not at 100%. There's just a lot of reasons pointing me towards Atlanta under a field goal. Now, if it gets to the full 3, it's not a play for me, but definitely like them at under a field goal.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on this game. Mm-hmm. I think that these teams, when fully healthy, are fairly close to each other, and I don't know how to deal with the injuries right now. So you have a strong opinion with it, and I defer to you. And I don't know if Connor feels any different.
Well, let's go to Connor, who might have an opinion on this thing.
I wish I did. So I would be definitely in on New Orleans here if the offensive line was healthy. I think we saw immediately last week, what we saw in the weeks 1, 2 from the Saints was they were able to run the ball well, and they were able to just execute play action and dial up massive plays. They tried running play action, and Jalen Carter was like living in the backfield. Like it was like an outright disaster. Like I bet Derek Carr's over passing yards. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is over. Like this is just, he has no shot because, I mean, it was literally like interior pressure every single time that he was dropping back there. And that, I mean, you just can't get around that from a guy who's not like super mobile like Derek Carr. And so the question is like, can David Onyemata and the Falcons interior produce anywhere near the type of pressure? Because obviously they don't have like any kind of similarities in terms of the juice that Jalen Carter in the interior, the Eagles line has. Like, in my opinion, that's going to basically decide this game. Like, it's literally like interior pressure. If the Falcons get interior pressure, they're going to win probably by a lot. If they don't, I think that the Saints probably hang around and it's a close game, more of a toss-up. So for me, at this point, I'd probably lean towards Atlanta. But if those guys were healthy, I think they're impactful enough that I would be on Atlanta here.
Connor, didn't the same thing happen to the Falcons offense against the Chiefs when they lost interior offensive line? Chris Jones was living in the backfield, and it felt like when they had offensive line injuries, that offense completely stalled against the Chiefs as well. So I don't know, maybe I'm talking myself into an under 42.5 here, but can't we say the same thing about the Falcons offense?
Yeah, I would say I would agree. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's one of those things too that you hear it from like pocket quarterbacks that like interior pressure is actually like harder to deal with than like pressure from the edges. But Brady talks about it all the time, and that was like one of the keys to stopping him, if there was any, was like interior pressure instead of like edge pressure. Whereas like mobile quarterbacks, I think, are a little bit different because they can just flush the pocket and get out a little bit easier there.
The one other thing I want to bring out, and I'm not trying to like completely, crap on the Saints or anything like that, but like the 2 wins don't look quite near as impressive the first 2 weeks. Now that we kind of understand what this Cowboys defense is all about as well, considering how poorly they have played. We know the Panthers, I think everybody had at least some hope that the Panthers are going to be a little bit better entering the season. And then that happened and people were like, oh my God, look, this 47-10 win. And then we realized like how bad the Panthers actually were as well. And then then you go in and Fangio just kind of absolutely stifles them in week 3. So I don't know. I think we can pump the brakes, I think, a little bit on the Saints, in my personal opinion here in this one. Guys, as always, everything we do absolutely free. So please hit that subscribe button. Do appreciate you hanging out. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know in the comment section what game stood out to you. What did we miss? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let's be frank. You're only going to put what you disagree with in there. That's fine. Just tell us what you disagree with and tell us that we're idiots and all that. We'll go in. We'll read them for sure. Don't think Steven doesn't go back in the comments, because we made a clean sweep on Thursday night when everyone was calling us idiots. And Steven went in there and did a little poking of the bear. So it's just a little poking of the bear. Just a little poking of the bear in that. Of course, if you have not already, go in. Check out all the great work Connor and company are doing over at 4 for 4. It is literally not only sports betting, but great fantasy stuff, DFS stuff, and great projection systems that you're going to want to use in your process. So be sure and put that to play over there for Connor. For Steven, I'm Matt. Good luck on all your week 4 bets.